Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Young at Heart, featuring nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, epics, stories of the great operas, which I shall return to in a few weeks, and such. To keep us all young at heart, I'm Father James DeLucio, back in the Library of the Polish Fathers in New York City, and tonight's selection comes from a grand opus of Italian folktales, and these were collected and retold by Italo Calvino, but this of course is an English translation. I'm not going to read it to you directly because of copyright infringements on behalf of Italo and his English translator, but I can tell you the story from memory. Oh, look at that little hair there. Because it's in my DNA, it's Italian, and it goes long back before there were copyrights. So here we are. Tonight's selection is called Dauntless Little John. And so here we go. Dauntless Little John was famous throughout the country for being courageous and not afraid of anything. And one day he traveled so far that he was tired and weary when the night came. So he found an inn, but he was told there's no room at the inn. "Well, where can I lay my head?" he asked. "Well," said the innkeeper, "up on the hill is a magnificent castle, beautiful palace, actually. You can stay there if you dare, because no one who has ever entered in at night has returned the following morning." "I'm not afraid of anything," said Dauntless Little John. But before he went, he bought himself a lantern, a big, thick loaf of bread, crusty and tasty, sausages, and a bottle of wine. So he enters the palace, and he gets into the main big dining room. Huge, big, long wooden table, exquisite chairs, comfortable and strong backs, and the most magnificent fireplace you've ever seen. Huge, taller than he, wider than anyone. So he sits down to make himself a meal. By this time, of course, it's quite late. And while he's eating, he hears a voice coming from the chimney. "Shall I send it down?" "By all means," says Dauntless Little John. "Send it down." And down the chimney comes a skeleton leg, the longest skeleton leg you've ever seen, clearly belonging to some very tall individual. And Dauntless Little John is unmoved. He takes a nice big bite out of his crusty bread. "Do you want me to send it down?" cries the voice from somewhere up in the chimney. "Go right ahead," said Dauntless Little John, and down comes another leg. "Do you want me to send it down?" "Please, by all means." And down comes an arm, long arm, with hands attached. Skeleton, of course, just bones. And the same thing happens with the other arm, and then a torso. And then the torso and the arms and the legs all connect, and out from the fire comes a skeleton without a head. "Do you want me to send it down?" "Please," said Dauntless Little John, and down comes the skeleton head, and it finds itself right on top of the skeleton body, and lo and behold, it materializes, it becomes enfleshed, and it's a great, big, terrifying giant. "To your health," says Dauntless Little John as he raises a glass to the giant. Said the giant. "Take your lantern," he said, "and go down this hall. I will follow." "I will follow you," said Dauntless Little John. "No, after you," said the giant. "No, after you," said Dauntless Little John. "After you," said the giant. "After you," said Dauntless Little John. And so the giant relents, and he leads the way, with Dauntless Little John holding the lantern, enough light for both of them, and he takes them through the entire palace. Floors and floors and floors of magnificent rooms and exquisite furnishings. Finally, they come all the way back down to the main floor, and underneath this grand staircase is a door. "Open the door," says the giant. "You open it," says Dauntless Little John. "Open the door," says the giant. "You open it," says Dauntless Little John. "Open the door," says the giant. "I think it's best that you do," said the Dauntless Little John, and so the giant opens the door to reveal a long spiral staircase going down, down, down to the darkest depths of the earth. "Go down the stairs. Proceed," said the giant. "You proceed," said Dauntless Little John. "You," said the giant. "You," said Dauntless Little John. "After you," said the giant. "After you," said Dauntless Little John. And so it went back and forth, until finally the giant began descending the stairs with Little John holding the lantern, and down, down they went to the very depths of the earth, and there on the deepest, lowest level of the ground there were 3 cement slabs. Well, not cement. I don't know if they had cement then. Stone. 3 stone slabs. "Raise them up," said the giant. "I think you should," said Dauntless Little John, and back and forth they went until finally the giant gives up and raises the slabs and throws them to the side. It's something only a giant could do. And there in the ground, where the slabs were 3 huge, large cauldrons filled with gold coins, as a matter of fact. "Take them upstairs," said the giant. "You take them upstairs," says Dauntless Little John. "Take them upstairs," said the giant. "You take them upstairs," said Dauntless Little John. And so the giant lifted one at a time, for they were very, very large and very, very heavy, and he goes up the winding stairs 3 times, one with each time with one of the cauldrons filled with gold coins. When they finally reach the top, with Dauntless Little John very courteously following the giant with the lantern, the giant lays down the last of the cauldrons, and he says, "Well, let me tell you this. You alone have had the courage to sustain my visit and enter into all the rooms and come down to the cellar without being afraid. You have lifted the curse on this family that has been stuck here. They are ghosts for generations and generations, for centuries. They are all free. They are free now to go to their heavenly realm. And this is their gift to you. The first cauldron of gold coins does now belong to you. The second, I want you to give to the friars in the town, because every time anyone has come to stay in the palace and not survived, have died of fright. The good friars have come in the morning singing Miserere mei, Miserere mei, and have given proper burial to the poor souls. The second cauldron of gold coins is to go to them to distribute to the poor, and the third also to the friars, but the friars must give it to the very first most destitute, desperate, poor family that they encounter. Well, I can do that, and furthermore, if you agree to do as I say, said the giants, this castle is yours. Is this still going on? I hope so. Everything went dark for a second, but I see that it's still 9:41, and we're near the end. He gets the castle, and then, little bit by little bit, the giant returns to a skeleton and dismembers himself, legs, arms, torso, head, up the chimney, is never heard from again. Dauntless Little John remains in the castle, very wealthy. He invests well. He invests in the town and the people, and everyone's happily ever after, living joyfully until one day, many, many years later. It doesn't say how old Dauntless Little John is, but he's going through the palace, and he's in one of the upper rooms with this huge windows, and the sun is streaming in, and he's enjoying the warmth. And he happens to, for the very first time in his entire life, to see his shadow. He's petrified. He dies of fright on the spot, and that's the end of Dauntless Little John. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had as much fun listening as I had telling you the story. If you'd like more Italian folktales, let me know in the comments. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. See you next week on Young at Heart. Good night.